Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sweet Take, the Paddock's best kept secret and milkshakes interview series. I'm super excited for our guest today. He really understands what energy in F1 in 2025 is like. You've seen his reels, you've saved his edits, you've wished you were at the same events that he was at. I'm super excited to introduce the most sought after photographer in F1, fashion, tennis, and football, Bilal Zagaoui. Welcome.
And thank you very much for having me on the podcast. Super excited to have a good chat with you, Natasha.
I am so excited to have you on because the photographer scene in F1 can be pretty traditional, and I feel that your approach and style is not. So, really excited to dive in a bit more about you, your journey, and kind of what makes you special. Why don't you tell our audience about a bit of who you are and the work that you do?
Sounds like a plan. So, yeah, my name is Bilal Zagaoui. I'm a French photographer. I'm based in Germany since about 6 years. Funny thing is that I'm a huge sports fan. I studied sports, then I went into business for my master degree, and I ended up landing on a really good job within Adidas. Adidas is such an amazing headquarters in Germany. It's like literally the dream job. The first day I set my foot there, even for the interviews, I was like, wow, I'm going to end up here. This is like paradise. You have sport infrastructures, you have animation, you have activities to do. This is the dream employer. And little by little, ambition started to grow as I was briefing new agencies, creating new strategies. I was like, oh, what if I pick up a camera and see where it goes from there? So each time there was David Beckham coming on campus, I always sneaked in my camera on campus. Farrell was here as soon as he finished doing his speech. I was waiting for him with my camera, and I got these very kind of like candid, authentic shots of him walking by. So I started to do it more often like this, and it triggered the attention of a lot of people in the company. That helped me push that idea that I could do this full time in the end.
Nice. I love that it was more organic and you just kind of like went into it. How would you describe your style, would you say?
So I like to think that I'm an event photographer. So I like to cover events in a very dynamic, energetic way. So I've done a few studio sessions. I've done a few lookbooks, but what I really enjoy doing is literally get thrown into the fire of the action,
Mhm.
This is a very high stake event. You have a few celebrities to capture. Try to do it in a very authentic and very candid way. So what I like doing is trying to catch this in between posy moments. So I don't like to pose too much. I really enjoy this very natural, when someone is like picking up their outfit and just asking their
Yes.
friend, that is that a cool way to show my hat? And this is actually the shot that looks very authentic and that people can relate to. So I'm really, really chasing those shots where I can kind of, this is my style. It's very like on the go. I would like
Yeah.
to say to catch and shoot, just, I used to play a lot of basketball. This catch and shoot thing that Stephen Curry is always doing. He just catch the ball and shoot it right away. It's the same thing that I have in my work. I just see an action, grab my camera, my flash, and I just capture here and there. So that's what I
Yeah.
like.
No, I see it in your work. It feels like we're there, like you're capturing like the actual essence of the vibe, which is very cool. Was there a particular shot or event that was a big break for you that got you really noticed?
So there's different angles to tackle this question, but where I would like to start is that I try to shoot always with a short lens, which means that it's not like a tele lens where you can capture people from very far away. It's like
Okay.
literally I used is always I have to be in the personal space of the people. So they have to notice me at some point. They have to say, oh, there's this guy taking a picture of me. So this gets me the look and the feel that I want to share, very intimate, very personal. So if you look at my work that I did in Abu Dhabi last December, I managed to get a grid access, which is very hard to get. And I managed to get very close from Carlos Sainz. And you can almost feel his aura from this picture. And it's totally different than if I was from the paddock with a 400 millimeter lens just capturing him.
Mm-hmm.
I really like to think that capturing stuff with a short lens, usually I use a Leica 28 millimeter or something like this, gets you the shots, the very engaging moments. And the first time I went viral with one of my publications is I think it was at the end of 2023. I think I had 5,000 followers at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I did this reel where I just come out of a plane and say all the friends I met this year, and all these friends were just super high end, super celebrities, and there was celebrities from all around the world from all different areas, fashion, sports, from all sides of the world. So everyone could relate and find someone that they were a fan of. And then this thing blew up and got me 25,000 followers from one single reel. And I think
Wow.
I did 6 million views or 7 million views, but this got me 25,000 followers from one single piece of reel. So when people say one reel can change your life, it's literally the truth. Like one piece of
Wow.
content can change your whole life. And I've done pieces of content that made 11 million views, but that got me maybe 200 followers, you know? It's just that this piece was super relevant and very
Mm-hmm.
original. I set up the trends on a lot of people picked up this concept. So it was really something that I was really proud of because it came straight from my head. I was just like, I threw it online. I was like, oh, again, another piece of content that will make
Yeah.
5 views. And in the end, I was like, no way. So this is what it takes. This is what it feels to go viral and to see your work finally recognized somehow. So yeah, this is a long story, but this is how
Very
I would
cool. I know
piece of content.
exactly which reel you're talking about too. So, which was your first F1 race that you went to?
First F1. So actually ended up in F1 very randomly. So I was shooting some fashion to help out my childhood friends that
Okay.
was working. His name is Sabri, and we go way back from the very first day of high schools.
Okay.
And he basically got a job at Boss. He was working from Switzerland, and then he had to cover to make sure some of his talents that he was bringing to a fashion show in Miami were covered. So he flew me there. It was when I was starting. He told me, "Hey, we have budget to take care of all your needs, accommodation, flights, but we don't have budget to pay photographer." So it's like, of course,
Mm-hmm.
first time I go to Miami as well. So I did that gig and covered all his talents, and that allowed me to connect with the big heads of Boss. I covered the talents of my friend, but also global talents. I set up Dropbox links for every single big talents that were at this party. And there was very big talents. It was a global show. There was DJ Khaled, there was Naomi Campbell,
Yeah.
another very big name. So I did a great job at this. And then the people from Boss trying to understand who did those pictures that the talents were posting, because some of them picked up the link in their DMs and they used these pictures to promote their influence for Boss, let's say. All the team from us were like, where is this picture from? Because we never sent the official pictures yet. And that was my pictures. And from there, 2 months after was the first Miami 2023 GP. And then we need someone that could do both photo and video. And I do both. So they were like, okay, we have one pass and we think that Bilal would be a great fit. So they sent me there. And that was my first time capturing Formula One GP. And I was over the moon. I was there. I started to watch Drive to Survive as well.
Yeah.
And this got me hooked to the racing world, I would say.
Very cool. And how smart. So you sent individual Dropbox links to each of the celebrities that they could download their own photos. Like, what a great idea.
I stayed up until 7 a.m. to finish all the pictures and send out all the links, but it paid off. So I'm very proud of
Totally.
having pushed into the night, a couple Red Bulls, but this was definitely worth the effort.
Nice. What would you say is the biggest difference when shooting these different sports, from football to F1 to tennis? How do you approach that?
When you go into a sports event, first of all, you need to have a good understanding of what the sport is. So you need to know the rules, the mechanics, the rituals, try to understand who the players are. If you have time to prepare, are there key gimmicks or this kind of stuff that would make people relate or say, oh, yeah, this is Carlos Alcaraz or this is Max Verstappen or
Yeah.
so you need to watch a lot of it because I don't know if I would go shoot some sports that I don't like. So you need to understand the sport, you need to enjoy it. And once you understand all these mechanics, this rule, these mimics, the habits, you need to understand the schedule of an event as well. You need to understand when is the free practice, when what's going on in free practice. You need to understand quali. 5 cars are out on FP2 on Q2. There's only
Yeah.
10 cars left. You need to understand all these things. And then is it a control space? So for tennis is actually so easy to shoot because it's a at least 2 hour event and then it's in a controlled space. You can move around all the arena and it's a very repetitive sport. Like action happens a lot of times, same thing. So you can pull up and edit 100%. There's like so many chances that you succeed. But for Formula One, it's so hard to shoot. The track is gigantic. So if you're
Yeah.
in the paddock, you're stuck in the paddock. You can only have this paddock perspective. You can do some cool stuff, like go in the garage if you're lucky enough to have this kind of VIP experience, but it's very restrictive, I would say. So it's more of an organizational process. So first day you go to the paddock, second day you go to you document the qualification from different angles around the track, and maybe on Sunday you stick to the grandstand. So because the grandstand is the best view, you get the start of the grid and you also get the podium. So you need to kind of structure your Formula One weekend in a way that's much more complicated than capturing a tennis game or football game or basketball game, which is in a kind of closed up environment, let's say.
That's a really good segue into talking a bit about your process, but it's so organized. The way that you're describing the different shots that you take, I can see it in the reels that you make because it shows so many angles of what's going on that makes you really feel like you're there. So that's really cool about how you plan. Do you actually go into it with like an idea in your head of like, this is the type of shot that I want, this is the type of video that I want, and then go seek out those specific shots? Or is it more fluid and you'd want to just capture everything and then you decide after how you want to turn that into content?
So my process is pretty straightforward. So a lot of people ask me, how do you come up with all these ideas? So first of all, I don't come up with ideas. I just scroll a lot on Instagram and see what content performs the best. Most of my ideas are sourced on TikTok because TikTok is where the trends are starting. And I look into Formula One. So I just say Formula One, let's say I'm going to Japan GP. And then I check on all the content that was created last year and that performed really well. And most of it is very organic content, UGC, with people doing it with their iPhone. And I try to elevate this concept and try to see, oh, they took a cool shot of Max Verstappen from this stand. So what if I bring on my long lens, book the same seat and capture it this way? Or there's a content creator that I really appreciate in the Middle East. His name is Amir DeLeon, and he's doing a lot of automotive content. And I just check on his perspective, his angles. He's covered a few F1 races, and he has also a lot of very social media friendly content ideas, which starts always with some UGC hook and ends up with a very high end camera edit. So that's what I'm trying to do, to send the message that I'm a creator that can do elevated social media content pieces. And I try to mix and match also with UGC from time to time because the algorithm picks it up easier.
So there's a lot of planning that goes into it and preparation.
Yeah, I just have to know which event I'm going to attend, or if I have a late call, I just start to set up my algorithm into suggesting me all this Monaco content idea, for example, because
Right.
I can have like a library of content that I want to make for Monaco, and I don't know, hundreds of reels and sounds that are saved that I want to use for Monaco, to tease the GP, to create content there, and to do after movies. So I have this library, and then I shred it down like maybe 3 days before. I just look at everything I saved over the last year or the last month, and I shred it down to 10 very strong pieces. And then I see what I create or what I shoot, and then I shred it down to 4 to 5 pieces.
Right.
All in all, let's say.
That's so smart. It just makes it so much more digestible and kind of gives you a goal in mind of what you're shooting for that you kind of mix and match. That's so smart. What's the track that you've shot at that's been your favorite so far and why?
That's a good question. I mean, what makes Formula One magical is that it's a global event, and everywhere you go, you have very specific experience because of the country. So I went for the first time in Mexico last year. It was such a nice experience. It's a vibrant culture, the Mexican culture, that you get like craziest food. They go the extra mile to show you their heritage. The second track I really enjoyed is Abu Dhabi, because this was the first time that I got the full access. Like literally I had full access to do whatever I wanted. It was kind of a full circle moment because it has been 18 months I was working in Formula One since my first race in Miami 2023. It was like very restricted to Aston Martin. And then I kind of networked and climbed up the ladder of Formula One step by step until 18 months later, I get this full access accreditation from the track to document a Formula One race the way I wanted to. I could even bring my friend to kind of help me frame and capture my personal takes on the race and do these daily recaps and a lot of pieces of content that went viral. So the team that hired me was very, very happy what we
Very
created.
cool. Yeah, back to Mexico for a second. So did you saw firsthand how obsessed the country is with Checo, right? Can you describe what the Checo fandom is like when you were in Mexico?
So they are very, very fan of Checo. But fun fact is I was working for Aston Martin there. So
Okay.
my task was to activate an event with Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso. And I can tell you one thing is that they're also very, very crazy about Fernando Alonso. We went to this mall, brand new mall that is in Mexico, and there's a stage set up in the center of the mall, and you have, I don't know, maybe 10 levels of
Okay.
it's a square, and you have 10 levels, and people are just basically piling on these levels
It's like an
and just
atrium. They can see it down,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of stores around, and then you have the boss store on one side, and all around on the floor you have a lot of people going crazy for Fernando Alonso. And I can tell you this was one of the craziest events I've ever been to. Like they had all the merch, they had all the creative stuff, like the drawings, it was insane. They have, this Jesus that looks
Yes, yes,
like
yes.
Fernando Alonso. It was everywhere. I was like, this is insane. So I got on stage with Fernando, and I got this kind of like selfie of him with all the fans, and also like a kind of a picture, a very cold picture of him just like crossing his arm with
Yeah.
a little smirk. Fernando is very reserved. He's not showing a lot of emotion. So it was just very cold like this with, I don't know, 10,000 people behind him. And I was very proud because the flash was perfectly set. The people were a little darker in the back, so you could understand that there was such a huge thing, and his face
Yeah.
was it. So I managed to catch the shot perfectly well.
That's amazing. I had no idea that Fernando had such a big fan base in Mexico. I thought it was Checo or nothing. So that's a fun fact for people to know.
They're going big on Checo, but I didn't get to experience it too much. But I've seen all the supports in the tree in stands. That thing is unmatched. I've never seen that many. Like the Checo
Yeah, the
faces in
cutouts. Yeah.
paper, the cutouts. They were everywhere. So this was definitely his home race. But unfortunately, he didn't do that well during this race. But the fans were definitely present for him.
Well, it's rumored that Checo is going to be on Cadillac next year as one of their drivers because obviously they have two seats and it's a new team. So having an experienced driver that can help guide the team as they kind of get up and running. And I'm hearing that he is one of them, which would be super exciting. And obviously the whole country of Mexico is going to be extremely excited. So yeah.
That sounds like an interesting take. And he's a huge marketing ambassador. So like any team that gets him will get a lot of revenues, and he's still a very competitive driver. So I don't see why he wouldn't get another chance. But I hope if they give a chance to Checo, they'll also give another one to Daniel Ricciardo.
I know. I
That
know.
that would be the perfect marketing team, I would say. Let's see if they perform after that. But that would be an
They would
interesting
They would
combination.
sell a lot of merch. Let's put it that way. Speaking of drivers, who have you like either photographed or met that you would say someone that surprised you, maybe in their personality? Who was the nicest? Who was maybe not so nice?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can tell you one thing. I'm not a Formula One expert, so I don't know. I have a good knowledge now that I've been in the industry for about 2 years, but I'm not an expert. So last year, someone reached out to inquire about me shooting a Formula One driver from McLaren. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to shoot with Lando Norris. It's going to be crazy. So excited about it. I've been like, I love Lando Norris. That's the guy I knew.
I love Lando.
And then when they explain a little bit further, they say, "Oh, it's going to be Oscar Piastri," and I'm like,
Wow.
"Is it the third driver or what? Who is this guy?" So I just Googled his name. I was like, "Oh, he's like the." I didn't know Oscar Piastri at the time because my culture was terrible. I was learning on the go. So maybe I have heard his name, but I was not too familiar with him. And then I got to spend the whole day with Oscar Piastri. I went to Monaco and we spent a day on the boat. So he hired a boat and he had to basically shoot his special livery helmet for Monaco. So it was an Ayrton Senna homage piece. So we took the boat and we spent the whole day together. He's literally the chillest guy I've ever met. He loves water skiing, so we brought him water skiing on a hired boat.
Yeah.
Then we went to play paddle together. So I captured a day of him playing paddle, showing his livery. So I did video photos of him with the helmet on the boat. It was the perfect day. And now he's kind of taking over.
He
So
is. So Oscar, people refer to him, he's got like ice in his veins because he's so calm and nothing ever phases him. Even if he messes up, he can just, he just can move past it. But he's also really funny, has a super sarcastic sense of humor. Did you get that when you met him? Is he relaxed but also hilarious at the same time?
said, he's a hilarious dude. My laugh is very communicative. So when I make a joke, I have to laugh at my own jokes. And people laugh at my jokes because they hear me laugh at my own jokes. But this dude has the capacity to literally make a joke and just have a little smirk about it. And then it's still hilarious. And it's not even that crazy joke, but just an attitude and just a vibe that he's sending through. And
Yeah.
this made me feel very comfortable and just like, oh, this dude is not taking himself too seriously. So I can suggest ideas. I can tell him to do this or that. It's a very confident vibe. And it was an amazing day. One of the
Yeah.
best I spent in Formula One, I think.
Well, I can imagine being on a boat in Monaco with Oscar Piastri sounds pretty amazing. Yeah, he seems like a really down to earth guy. His girlfriend works for McLaren, and she is a engineer for them. And his mom is hilarious. She has some of the most amazing tweets. Like I remember after he won his first race, obviously the time is very early in Australia when she's watching. I think the race was at maybe 5, 6 a.m. her time. And she tweets something like, well, I guess I'm going to miss Pilates because Oscar's winning. She's just hilarious. All right. Well, why don't we keep moving on? So what would you say, Bilal, is your most favorite piece, either photo or video that you've made and why? Other than maybe the one that got you 25,000 followers in a day.
So the thing I do very naturally is capturing the photos, the right images when I get the access. But the thing that takes me more time is videos. So what I try to do now is to bring on someone with me to execute my ideas. So I come up with the whole creative direction and then I get someone that kind of frame the day as I want it. And then ultimately this would get me enough reach to get potential clients interested in my work and interested in how I document or show a brand. And this paid off in Abu Dhabi because I got a partnership, like influencer partnership with McLaren. They asked me to do a piece to showcase what DP World, one of their partners, is doing.
Yeah.
I find it very stimulating to create these visuals because they help me to kind of brand myself as well. And the videos that I'm the most proud of is the one I did in Abu Dhabi. As I said, I had all access and I managed to find a way to put my face on the Formula One content so people could understand that I was deeply involved in the industry and I kind of came up with this very hooky introduction, came up with very creative hooks with my friend Francesco. He's a German videographer that I work a lot with and flew him with me to Abu Dhabi. And then I had all the ideas laid down and he also had some creative inputs into the way the footage was cut, but I really had a strong idea on what I needed, and this worked perfectly smooth. We managed to deliver all these daily recaps plus an after movie. And when they posted on Instagram, we had a good reach, managed to do some really good collabs. But when they posted on TikTok, my content had like 2 million views when they were on average maybe 3,000 views per post. This was kind of a that I was very proud of, I would say.
Very cool. Yeah, it's also so cool that you can connect your work directly to metrics right away and can kind of use that as examples with other clients and brands in the future. Before we talk about your hustle, because I definitely want to get there, I am curious now that you've had, all this access kind of behind the scenes in F1 and in other sports. I'm curious to get your perspective on how you're seeing athletes build their own personal brand and like examples of where you've seen it done really well. And maybe talk a little bit about the Quadrant event that you went to with Lando building his personal brand outside of F1 with his new apparel company and the work they're doing with Liberty Walk. What are you seeing in the world of athletes going beyond their actual sport and building themselves out in other ways?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In my opinion, I would say that there's an audience that wants to watch less racing and more lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it goes from trying to see the style of the girlfriend of the drivers or what is the style of the actual drivers. What do they do on their free time? Where do they go on vacation? So I feel like this is almost as important as the racing part nowadays. And if the driver managed to do a mix of both, they have a strong team around them, they can identify the opportunity. And whenever those drivers, or when there's a race in Mexico, when there's a race in Japan, they can identify, whoa, Liberty Walk is such a good match for a driver to kind of, Lewis Hamilton did this drifting session last year in,
Yeah, yes.
I think one of the cars, the car that was the GTR Skyline, was coming from Liberty Walk. And he just did these drifting videos. But Lando, he pushed it even further. So he was like, okay, whoa, Lewis did this thing, but what if we push the idea even further and we make a real Skyline to your image? And then this is what they did. They worked together and they brought in a masterpiece of a car that required hours and hours of work to deliver it on time for the GP to Lando. And then they brought him into the headquarters of their brand
Yeah.
in Nagoya, and they did this whole activation around him. He met with the locals, with the VIP friends and family. So I feel like all the drivers need to have a strong team and to identify all these cultural, impactful projects that they can do and prep for before a race. It doesn't have to be every race, but like a driver career span can be quite long. So maybe they decide to do Japan heavily on one season, and maybe they do Austin the next year, or Brazil, like,
Yeah.
especially Japan and Brazil, they have like these very strong communities. And when people start on social media, it's going crazy, And social media is already crazy in the US, but it doesn't have the same hype as if you go to Brazil and like I Show Speed is doing. He's going to a culture and showing it to his whole world. Driver try to promote an interesting cultural aspect of a race. That would be my take on it.
Well, thank you for validating everything that we're trying to do here at Milkshake, because it is not just about racing, it's about lifestyle and culture and everything around it. And you made a comment about, a driver's lifespan can be long, but it can also be very short because they can get fired at any second. So what is their life beyond F1, and capitalizing on their time here when they have so much exposure is so important. Okay, Bilal. So this part I'm actually very excited to ask you about: the hustle that you have and all the traveling that you're doing, all the events that you're a part of. I am curious, if we rewind the clock and go back in time, what did your early hustle look like? Were you sending DMs, showing up at events uninvited, cold emailing brands? What was that like in the beginning versus where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally not given. It's a lot of hustle that I had to do at the start. And when you start, you don't have it. You have no access. You just try to figure out what your style is, which direction you want to go to. Is it sport? Is it fashion? Is it automotive? You don't know really. So I really tried everything. And the more I was shooting, the more people were telling me, oh, you need to choose a niche. You need to choose like one specific topic. Otherwise people won't find you. And I was feeling a little bit depressed about it, because what if I like to shoot a lot of different topics? What if I don't want to focus all my energy on one topic, because at some point I get bored? And okay, it's cool to get creative, but until when can you get creative in the same industry? And then you're known to do only the same thing. And I wanted to have this kind of approach where I can be creative in any environment I'm thrown at. So if you send me to a tennis table game, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to pull out some crazy cool content that has never been seen in ping pong before. That's what I also try to share on my socials. Sometimes it's going to be a VHS edit. Sometimes it's going to be a high-res set of photography. But now my ratio in terms of posting photos and videos has dramatically shifted. Before I was posting one reel for one set of pictures, but now it's more about reach. So I'm trying to catch new audience with my reel and drop a good set, the best of my pictures. So people see, oh, yeah, he's actually a photographer. And to go back to your question, how I started with the first day, I was catching all my friends at work. Hey, can we go shoot something on the weekend? Shot a lot of films. I shot a lot of like models on my free time. I remember my first time in New York, I was just sat down at a cafe and two models were coming out of a casting. And I was like, oh, wow. I was literally shaking. I was so unsure of what I was doing. I was like, oh my God, I got it so ridiculous to ask them for some pictures in the street. But it's like, models in New York, in one of the fanciest neighborhoods. Let's get them some street style pictures. So I just turned and say, hey, well, I was with my friends. He's like, are you crazy, bro? Like, what are you doing? Why are you talking to super stunning model? Like, I turn around, ask them if they want to shoot something, say, yeah, we're finishing the coffee and then we can go for a couple of minutes. And then I got them some really nice pictures and we became friends from there. So, I was shooting everything, a lot of street style, A lot of street portraits, going in the street to ask people for a picture takes a lot of courage, you know? So this kind of literally developed my aura in terms of photographer because you need to build this confidence. And I feel like I have this confidence with my camera and I lose it a little bit when I don't have my camera because a camera is always a great tool to reach out to someone, whether it's a yes
Yeah.
or no. Take their pictures. It's still a great way to reach out to people. And maybe they ask you, hey, are you a photographer? What do you do for a living? And then it's kind of a conversation opener, let's say.
Yeah. I love that story. I mean, a lot of people when they're starting out, putting yourself out there is the hardest part and just doing it. And so it's nice to hear that everyone goes through that phase when they're starting out, myself included. And so it's normal. And I also love your approach. You're just thinking about how am I going to stand out? How am I going to keep innovating, coming up with new ideas that is what people are going to value me for. Like my work speaks for itself. Was there ever a time when people didn't get your style or you had to really convince people that this is the way that you wanted to do it versus the brief that maybe they had asked you to do?
So there was never really any confrontation, you know, when someone reached out to me and present a brief to me, they know that I'm an expert. So they always ask for my opinion and my take
Yeah.
on their brief. And it's the same thing when I collaborate with a big talent. You know, I come up with my ideas, but if they don't feel like doing it or I don't know them personally. So in the end, I always ask them, hey, how do you feel like doing this part of the brief or this part of the video? How would you do it in your own way? So when I was with Roger Federer, I came up with this whole set of idea and he was always saying, hey, what if I do it this way? I said, please do it this way. This is your video. That's not mine. So these are my ideas, but they need to fit to your style and who you are. So people can say, oh, okay, this is my Roger Federer, you know? So in the end, it's always a very collaborative take on everything I'm doing. And in the end, on the personal side, when I post on social media, it's a lot of testing, you know? The more you post, the more you understand your audience, the more you understand what people are expecting to see from you. Sometimes I test and I fail. Sometimes I make 2,000 view reels, even though I have 80,000 followers. My average view stuff is 10,000 views. When something is pretty working, it's 30,000 views and one out of 15 posts goes viral. And I'm very happy with it because it's not the post that goes viral. It's all the work you put before to test new formats, to test new things. And when something performs, then it's like fishing, you know, you just like, you find a good spot and then you try to replicate it and try to innovate, but you found something that works. So it's about testing and not being shy of sharing your vision. Maybe people don't pick it up or don't understand it at first. So it's okay. Just move on, try something else.
Yeah. I love your approach and it's like putting out the building blocks, trying new things, like fast fail, essentially. And before we get to our quick fire segment, my last question for you, Bilal, is what advice would you give yourself when you first started a few years ago?
To be honest, I'm very happy where I'm at the moment. You know, I'm a self-made photographer, videographer. I haven't been to a school. I come from a very modest and very humble background from a very tiny city in France. I come from actually Mulhouse. If someone wants to look it up, it's right next to near Switzerland. Fun fact is Roger Federer is born on the Switzerland side, 30 kilometers away from my place. It's called Basel. My parents are like very honest workers. They've never came from creative industries. My advice to myself is just like keep pushing. You're on the right path. There's nothing I want. I mean, you can always do more. You can always achieve more. But I would say that if I want something is just to find a routine, to understand where's the limit between work and personal life, to kind of like middle ground, because to this compromise, putting myself a little further. So just put yourself first and keep pushing. The work will pay off, I would say.
Yeah.
That's my advice for my past
I
self.
love that. I also love Roger Federer and tennis, and that's very cool that you got to meet him. We'll have to talk another time, Bilal, about tennis specifically. Today was about F1. Okay, so before I let you go, we're going to do a little milkshake tradition, something called Checkered Confessions I mentioned earlier. 10 questions, one-word answers, just the first thing that pops in your head. You ready?
Yep,
okay.
I am.
Best dressed driver of 2025 so far.
People would go for Lewis Hamilton, but I feel like the more stylish and effortless driver that is dressed is Yuki Tsunoda. Love his style. Effortless. I love it.
Who is the most photogenic team pairing that you've observed?
I like Isaac Ajar and Yuki.
Who needs a stylist?
I would say Max, because he doesn't care about style. He's just about racing. He's not getting distracted. So imagine if you have a stylist just who lay out the outfit for him before going to race day. He would be the ultimate form of a driver.
Agree. I think that's a great call. F1 team with the best branding right now.
By far, VCarb. All the TikToks, they don't take themselves too seriously. Authentic, genuine, candid content. Love it.
Nice. Fashion week or race week?
On media day, fashion week, and for the rest of the weekend, race week.
Okay. Shooting in Monaco or shooting in Miami?
Miami for racing and Monaco for the vibes and the lifestyle.
Okay. One edit trick you always sneak in.
Match cuts. That's super easy to do, especially in Formula One, where you cannot move too much around the track on race day. So you just have to get your camera, same movement, and match the cars all together.
Cool. What is a travel must-have that you never leave home without?
Travel must have, I would say my cameras, but my VHS camera, I always have it with me. This is a great tool because when cameras are forbidden for any events, they always let you in, and bringing out a vintage vibe to a sport event has a lot of chances to perform on social media.
That's a great tip. Okay. Best reaction you've ever gotten after an athlete saw one of your photos or an edit?
Let me think.
Any sport.
In sports, in any sport. I think Roger was very happy with the video I did for him. So he shared it everywhere. He even gave feedback to the team on running that the video was pretty awesome. So I was very happy with that reaction.
Yeah. He seems like such a nice guy for someone that's so famous. He seems like really down to earth, which is cool.
100%.
Okay, one driver, this is the last one. One driver you'd love to do a full lifestyle shoot with.
I shot everyone, so most of them. So I would say for lifestyle, I would love to get my hand on Lewis at some point because he's an icon and he's been doing a lot for to promote this kind of like inclusivity aspect. So he has all this background that makes me want to work with him 100%. So yeah, Lewis Hamilton for sure at some point.
Nice. Well, Bilal, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been so awesome to have you on the Sweet Take, and I'm leaving with so many new ideas and feeling inspired about the journey ahead. So thank you so much for sharing your story and the things that you've done to stand out. Really appreciate it. To all our girls listening, that's it for today, but stay tuned for our next episode. Bye for now.